Well, hello everyone and welcome to tonight's stream, or today, wherever you are. Osiris New Dawn is what we're playing. I have played this for a fair while. I had some offline time, but I feel it's worth starting a new game. I happened to notice today that there was a bit of a patch, small changes here or there. Probably nothing too significant to concern myself much. And hello TVPVZ. Ah, Kotori. And hello everyone else. My two characters, just a bit of a casual play. I'll go with a new one. I find the colour scheme of the Outlanders better. So, of course. I thought you could change the view. Appears not, otherwise. What name should we go with tonight? No suggestions? Alright, we'll go with Koi then. So there are quite a few different settings here. For the main idea, aliens can end up just being a pain in the ass to deal with, so reducing that down a little bit. Maybe not completely off. Alien damage can feel a little bit strong on normal, so weaken them down a little. And we'll keep the alien health just a little bit weaker, just so they're not too much of a pain. I don't really see the point of structure degradation. It just ends up being a pain, especially with how repairing works. Because we're going for just a bit of a testing, we're going to boost up the experience just so it's not tedium. Resource yield, recharge, loot chats. We'll keep these all standard. The universe name. We'll just go with this. And we'll just get right into it. Spawn location seems to be random, so I wonder where I'm going to end up. Certainly seems different. Well, while that Dark Souls difficulty would be interesting, I find there's more tedium rather than going with that kind of difficulty, especially since this is mostly just a test and nothing serious. So we started out in the middle of nowhere with a few things around us, a couple crates with general items, from weapons to tools to food and water and recoverable items such as medkits. I normally don't rely on medkits or bandages, despite that they stack to 50, and I should probably keep that around as an option. Actually, it appears they've changed the stack limits for certain things. Medkits stack to 5, bandages to about 16 if I remember, and batteries were 5. That's a good change, I like that. The weapons are gonna come in handy. Good idea. Just, have I ever played Dark Souls? Yes, I've played Dark Souls before. I believe I've finished Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. Got pretty far into Dark Souls 2. And pretty far into Dark Souls 3, though I believe the furthest I went in 3 was to Upper Analondo. And then I decided to stick around for the PvP. So, back to the game. Inflatable Dome, our home place. A home away from home. We're luckily blessed with a fairly flat area, so fewer issues when it comes to entering and placing other things around it. Though I'd like to have it off to the side. The meaning for the offset location is just so that the more flat areas can be used for storage crates. And look at that, we have some resources nearby. I believe here will do fine. I find this building to be time-consuming, perhaps unnecessary. Building health is recovered with the multi-tool, which I have set to 1 here, and a few options come up when you're nearby a building. And repairs are done if you haven't fully built an building with full health by pressing F while looking at it. There are some customization options, just as the colors, detail, secondary, and primary. Pretty dark, pretty bright. Doesn't really make much difference. Resource gathering. The fun bit. Oh, that's new. Saving inside the dome. A mission that was not in the game before. The benefit to saving recovers your health. I reacted quick enough to not take any damage from the loss of oxygen from the initial suit damage by using the patch tape, which is an infinite use resource. And sure, I'll try to get around to playing the Resident Evil 7 demo. I believe I downloaded that. Anyway, resources often, mostly rather, in these ore nodes, several around here. As you look at them, it tells you exactly what tier of item or what exact mineral resource you'll get from them. Aluminium is one of the three most commonly used resources. And you gather it doing the obvious. First person and third person views seem to have slightly different rates for mining and gathering. I find the third person to be interesting, but slower. And with first person you can still move around while mining, whereas the third person is a full animation that keeps you in place so you can't move left and right. But it does have some quirks. Running forward and attacking can sometimes end up with a 2-hit combo. Let's see if we can get that here. And that was it there. It's been a while since I've last played Resident Evil 7. Something to note as you run around, the suit temperature raises. Above 30 degrees you're given a warning for high suit temperature, and as far as I noticed, it's not a terribly bad thing. You might use more of the hydration or thirst, but thirst and hunger degrade at, I feel, a suitable rate. That looks like we missed an iron. One of the environmental effects. Bit of fog, which also seems to cause the screen to go show as rather watery or wet. And we have meteors. Meteors, one of the random environmental effects that can happen at just about any time. They often end up dropping some minor amounts of resources. They quite often include aluminium, iron, and magnesium. Rare charges, you end up with a certain rare resource. It's used to make more of the drone. The drone is an unusual AI thing. I've had certain situations where I've closed the game out in the middle of a field, and it has appeared next to me when I have started the game again. You can give him a few commands, such as stay, which doesn't really seem to do anything other than stop him from following you. Following is usually a good idea. It has a gun that will shoot at enemy creatures as you encounter them, though it's a rather weak weapon that I don't believe is upgradable at all. The flank left and flank right I haven't tested, and the patrol and repair has been something that's been fairly glitchy. When you choose to have it patrol and repair, you're given an option to select a location, usually directly in a raycast from where you're looking. And if you get it close enough to a building, it should move towards the building and repair it if it's needed. At this time, it doesn't need any repairing, so it should just stay nearby. No, I don't believe I know of Soma. It can be set to patrol and mine, but I've never tested this and felt more preferential to gather resources myself. It's rather simple. And speaking of the resources, we managed to acquire a reasonable amount of iron. Not much magnesium, but plenty of aluminium. Two things we need right now are iron and aluminium. Crafting is simple, I suppose. When you first load up each of the categories here, the game will load up the images, which is interesting. Oh, this is much faster than before. At least the first one was. Utilities took a little bit longer. The current mission is to create a depository, or a crate, if you really want to call it that. Selecting it brings out whatever last weapon or tool you had out before. Left clicking, right clicking rotates it, and it seems to be closely represented where it'll build on some kind of grid. And depending on where the grid is, it will adjust and tilt according to the terrain. And it appears to not conform completely to the terrain. Partially clipping into, sometimes sticking out on the side. Because we have a little base here, I like to have my crates nearby. And again, the building process. I won't build it with full health. On the right there you can see that the bar isn't quite to the end. Pressing F does... oh, look at that, the repair bot. Just in close enough range. Rather slow, and I thought the multi-tool repairing was slow. Oh, we'll leave that to him. Put our weapon away and open the box to put a few things away. We don't need as many containers. We'll keep one on me just for a bit of hydration later. We'll put a couple magazines away. The baked potato and the carrots. The medkits and the bandage and the battery and the cryptex. Actually, we can use the cryptex here now. With this little decrypt station. If you ever remember Pipes, the little mini game, you're given a certain number of moves to solve this, and 3 attempts per cryptex. If you solve it the first time, you don't need to use the other attempts, so it's doesn't. I'll try that again. If you solve it the first time, the extra attempts don't matter. I've done this a couple times now, so I'm pretty sure I remember exactly where this goes. Cross, down, and there we are. That unlocked the light path, or the path light, And learning this puts that in the utilities, if I remember. Yes, the utilities. Which is interesting. The icon just next to it says that it's a chem light. It doesn't appear to put out very much light though, so it's not needed or used very often. Our next mission is to build a forge, which normally tells you to gather the resources. A forge is in the utilities. We've gathered the iron and the titanium we need, but we need the plutonium. Plutonium is, I believe, in base metal resources? I forget exactly, but it is also its own metal node, or resource node. In the distance, there were some geysers off in this particular direction. You may or may not have seen. They are roughly in sight now, and if I remember exactly, they were not chlorine. I believe it's chlorine. We can't gather them at the moment, and if I remember correctly as well, you don't have any particular resources nearby those. There are other geysers that do have some base resources. In this current location, it appears we may be near the edge of this main island, as those dunes spread off into the distance what seems like infinitely. Might take a drive or a fly out that way if we get that far along, but for now it doesn't really matter much. It's about time we go for a bit of exploration to try to find some plutonium. Yeah, plutonium. Exploration on foot can be slow. If you're concerned about the suit temperature, then you probably won't be running much. But you also have a jetpack. A bit like Iron Man, I suppose, because it comes in. The jets are in the feet. Over here we see these trees. These trees are tree bark trees which have sap around these shells. The sap can be collected and can be consumed. It's, as far as I know, as healthy as water, though it doesn't recover any of the hunger. And I was right, it's chlorine here in these geysers. To collect the gas we need barrels, and they can be crafted at the reactor or forge. The chlorine is made to used to make some other, I think it's a liquid in this. I can mine or collect the tree bark from these trees by using the chisel, but at the moment there's no use for it. There's some interesting terrain with these massive spires. Now, I've climbed up one or two of them before, and there isn't really anything at the top, which is a shame. In one or two other locations there are floating islands that, again, don't have anything. I don't believe it's possible to get to them on foot. It appears we're near a crater, and as I approach that large area over there, something interesting might happen. Okay, it's happening now. Giant worm. Yes, my microphone is push to talk. I prefer push to talk over anything else. I perhaps should change it to open mic, but in the circumstances where it may not be suitable may occur. Although I do have a mute button on the microphone if that does happen. Now with that giant worm, I don't know how long it sticks around, how many times it emerges from the sand. Should stick around sometime. Find out. We have some other plants here, the sword leaves, and appears to just be the sword leaves. The blue blades. These are used to make certain buff items. Now we have down here lead. Lead would be a good resource to have some for the later time. Mostly for batteries. The Chow crater. I believe this is one of the craters I've walked around a few times. As we explore as well, we find these red spiky plants. Walking into them, touching them, or landing on them will damage your suit, compromising the suit integrity and reducing the oxygen and suit pressure. Overall, bad idea to touch them, and they cannot be damaged, destroyed, collected for any sort of resources, at least for now. What did I just heard something emerge from the ground. Not the giant worm. I believe it's a crab. Crabs usually emerge around these craters, as well as out in the open field. In the open field they usually come up in pairs. Not an awfully strong creature, of course, playing on a reduced creature health at the moment. Carbon, something I didn't think was out this way. Carbon, what was this used for? It was used in making plastic. I believe hydrogen and chlorine were both used in making... No, it was just hydrogen. Hydrogen was used in making rubber. However, there are rubber trees as well. This is interesting. No creatures down in this crater. Ah, jeez. Gosh. I heard it behind me. This game seems to have a slight issue when it comes to the audio design. Left and right and front and back occasionally appear to be completely reversed. I thought I'd heard it behind me, so I turned around. I looked the wrong way. course, my tendency to reload often. So we come up to these hydrogen geysers, which don't have what I thought they had near them. The hydrogen geysers can occasionally spawn with plutonium mineral nodes. Ah yes, and I attempted to explain maneuvering around. With a tool or weapon out, your jetpack speed is much lower than oh god. Much lower than if you have nothing out. Off in the distance I see oxygen geysers, which is interesting. Let's turn the light on. Nighttime. Ah, that's where it landed. The resources that come from this one would have rolled down here. There's one of them, magnesium. Could have gone anywhere. The items that come from the meteors often despawn over time, so I'm not even going to look for them. Simply one or two of each resources that they drop. And I believe over this side, before I turned around, there's a plutonium. This may be another geyser. Not a geyser, crater. I'll show off some melee attacks with this skeleopod. These things look like they're from Alien. Seems to knock back the enemy when they're hit. And when an enemy gets low or has health reduced to almost being killed, they seem to run away. Seems at half health this one wants to run away. We'll let him go. Also, pardon me for the notification on the other program on the side. I find that melee attacks in first person are more difficult to hit than in third person. And as you notice the red line around the screen, we've reached our max capacity, which prevents us from running. Jetpack speed is not affected, interestingly. How much plutonium? No, plutonium now stacks to 50 instead of the 10 it was before. Gold, copper, iron, magnesium and aluminium were all 50 before. Same with titanium and carbon. With a limited amount of inventory slots, you can only carry a certain amount. Now that plutonium's up to 50 with the rest of the resources, which I believe the other things such as rubber and plastic, they may also stack to a 50 or similar. When you start the game you have a 50 kilogram weight capacity. I've obviously exceeded that to 107 kilograms, and we have a percentage amount, and above 100% we just stop being able to run. At 200% you are unable to use tools, so you are stopped from gathering any further. I believe you also are forced to walk. Rather quickly, we've managed to reach level 4 and gain 3 lots of stat points. 15 is because you get start at level 1, at level 2 you get to 5 points, because I've set it to 5 points rather than the 2 you normally have. Perhaps a little excessive. Putting in strength gives about 4 kilograms apparently per point, or per 5%. I've been finding that weight or strength is the main skill you have the greatest use for, is gathering resources. Well, we only have a small handful of things here, and we had already exceeded our 80 kilogram max. Get this up to 50, and well, the other 3 things: stamina, fortitude, and agility. Agility is speed, fortitude is health, of course, and stamina is, well, stamina. I haven't ever really run out of stamina, and I've run quite a lot in the past. Fortitude, at this point, nothing is terribly strong or hurtful. There's only one thing that can instantly kill you that I know of, that giant worm. And agility, well, we'll just throw some points into that anyway, just for a change. Each of the different proficiencies, combat, engineering, and science, have main categories. Melee damage, melee proficiency, obviously. Well, I'm not sure what the proficiencies exactly do. They don't seem to give any extra damage, but as you use each of the proficiencies, you gain a point, a skill point in that particular category. Combat for melee, since we've killed a couple things and mined a few things. Engineering, mining. It's interesting. By mining things with your chisel, you boost mining and melee. And science, mostly by gathering gases, collecting sand, and crafting. The music changed briefly. Doesn't appear to be anything too bad at the moment. We'll continue. Each of these points in each of the proficiency categories go into the skill web, either unlocking crafting recipes or buildings. I heard that. Suit breach, because it touched me. Suit breaches happen at random and cause you to lose oxygen. I'm not sure if when that reaches 0 you end up losing health, but I'd assume so. Using the patch tape will improve the suit integrity by 1 part until fully repaired. Usually I don't get below 1 use worth. It's extreme cases where you're ambushed by 3 crabs and 2 skiliopods, or, oh good gosh, He didn't attack me because he's low health, still running away from me. Or when you're in a field of those spiky red plants. I'll just gather a few more things here, a bit more plutonium just to save us from having to come out specifically to this area to grab them. And having collected the plutonium, we have what we require. Oh, look, it's an adult sceliopod. The adult looks slightly different, slightly larger. I believe they're a bit more of a bluish colour. There's another sceliopod we may encounter later. We've exceeded our backpack capacity again at 120 kilos at the moment. That's what we can carry. We've got 137, almost 138 kilos of resources, so we'll head back. An unusual thing when you're encumbered and attempt to run. Okay, this appears as if I'm moving slightly faster with the chisel. With one of the guns seem to move off to the side, strangely. We still have the combat music playing. Something might just be that other sceliopod that we attacked before and didn't kill. Another crab monster down here. You may have noticed me picking up some of the resources from the creatures. Most useful ones are the meat. Crab talons now stack. Crab talons would used to not stack at all, so you'd end up with an inventory full of them. There he is. Ooh, that was close. Being unable to run can end up being a problem when you come across them. Thankfully the jetpacks are unaffected by the weight, excess weight you carry. Until you get above 200% of your weight capacity, then you're pretty screwed anyway. You can't jump, you can't use items, you can't run. It just ends up being bad. I'm just going to head back, drop off a few things, and try to craft what we need, or what we can. The benefit to the automatic GPS system this has is it tells you where you spawned. And it can set to a few different things. There are beacons. The beacons themselves can be destroyed or damaged. Usually have a decent amount of health though, so if you place in a place where creatures spawn, they won't take any damage until you get close enough and the creature decides to run around and brush it gently. One of the other Things you can set this to is the Osiris personal assistant, the bot, as well as the inflatable dome that's 3,000 meters away. There's another dome? We'll have to go check that out. At the moment though, we can make that forge. We'll throw that next to the crate. And yeah, the worm may be a reference to Tremors. That's a new sound. There aren't very many other places that it could be much of a reference to, are there? In the forge we have the basic crafting things. You can cook the meat to recover health, or the different meats become the same thing, grilled alien meat. So doesn't matter which, they all end up being in the same stack. And they too also now stack to 50. Before there were 8, so you end up having 3 or so stacks and then go out and be ambushed by one group of enemies and perhaps use a couple. Then go to the next fight, and then you'd have to replace the stack half a fight, and be a pain, annoying. Here we'll just throw some of these basic creature resources. We won't need the lead for a while. That's interesting. Because these now stack to 50. I should have paid attention to that. Must have been a quick little change they did on the spot. Grab me there. We will need more gold. We'll need more copper. We will need not the carbon, not the plutonium. The main things you end up crafting are the steel plates, which there appears to be a secondary one where you can break down the barrels. But the steel plates, these take up 1 of iron, 1 of magnesium, and 1 of aluminium. We'll collect some more magnesium in a moment. Steel plates now 50 instead of the 40 they were before. That's interesting. Shovel will come in handy. Rather slow process of getting glass. Straightforward though. And we'll throw that on 7. In third person, there is no animation whatsoever for gathering sand with a shovel. First person, however, don't think that's combat. We have a mission assistant to protect us for now. Ooh, ooh. Ejaculus, ooh, a snake. This weird snake thing. Pretty big. Also interesting, when you collect the resources, the dead body disappears underground. It's an interesting way of handling AI body despawning. Because of the straightforwardness of this, we'll just collect all these now and make some sand. Glass, rather. And we'll keep that on for now. The next goal, since we've completed that build a forge mission, would be to make a habitat. Making the habitat is a two-step phase, I suppose. Collecting the resources to build the main frame, and then the walls. Thank you for the excitement. A brief moment to collect these. These usually seem to happen nearby enough to you that they don't seem completely random. Because the other unfortunate thing about the fog and other weather conditions is they seem to darken the area around you. It's not good for the stream, though it's an interesting feature. I suppose while we're digging, I can explain a little bit about the environment. The highest temperature I've seen on the planet yet is about 90 degrees, which I assume is 90 degrees Celsius, as the suit temperature usually tries to keep below 30. The suit temperature generally doesn't get lower than about 20 or 21 degrees Celsius, whereas the environment can get below zero. It's interesting that certain things don't freeze over. It's usually nighttime that get very low temperatures, especially during storms. But it doesn't change much beyond the law, I suppose. Using a shovel to gather sand, you usually end up with about 101 pieces of sand, which is not a perfect amount to make a certain amount of glass or other resource that you can craft. Also, I'm glad they made the change to have sand stacked to 50 as well. Before, it only stacked to 4, so you'd end up with a full inventory of sand. Now, this batch of glass will not be enough. We'll need a lot more. We'll leave that in the forge for now. Storm's cleared up. Back to the normal stuff. Try to find some base metal. A lot of iron and aluminium and magnesium will be needed because you need a lot of steel plates. I released the wrong button there. Which is why, did it turn up the, no, I did slightly. The resource gathering or gain. Don't believe I set it up to the max, which probably would have helped out with this mining part. These animations have a lot of enthusiasm in them. That's rare. Plutonium in one of these base metal resources. So, to make a habitat frame, we need the glass, we need the copper. I should have grabbed the glass. We don't quite have enough copper. We'll have to find a rare mineral resource. Precious is what it's actually called, precious. Seems like we're getting a lot more titanium than others. I must have adjusted the rates for precious resources. Copper. I suppose you can partially tell the difference between the different resources. Precious ones seem to appear a little more rounded, I suppose. I thought it was gold. The aluminium is a shiny silvery colour. The iron is the reddish, of course. Carbon and lead look similar, just slightly different when it comes to the shade. And so on and so forth. We'll start the habitat, which I need to actually unlock in this side, I believe, civil engineering. We took one engineering point, which we had 5 of. While we're here, we may as well try the biodome. And the lab construction. Batteries would be good to have. And combat. I should have kept an engineering point for munitions. Anyway, now that that is unlocked, we have a nice, fairly flat surface here. Try to raise it a little bit by coming back. We have the entrance facing us this way. I'll get this to most of the way built. Getting underneath it to repair it. Has much more health in the new. It's full health now. Is that the sun? Wow. Okay. In the current version, the UI having been slightly changed, having the building health to the far right and much smaller, you can't see how much exactly it was repairing unless you're looking really closely. But before we finish this up, we need to do a couple things. With the multi-tool, we get close to a wall, we have to select what kind of wall we want. We're going to need a lot of iron, aluminium and copper by the looks of it. The windowed wall is kind of cool. It lets you look out as you'd expect, but you can't build something in front of it. There are furniture items that can only be built in front of a normal wall. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 walls you can build, and the 4 cardinal directions. I like to build the couplers, which allow you to build an extra room or hallway out to a new building piece. But it's looking like... no, it should be able to fit at least one building on either side. And on the front here, we need to build an airlock. Just enough coffer for it. Ah, that's how. The airlock has a staircase that will appear after you build it. But it also has several pieces on the inside that you also need to build. With the multi-tool out, you can see what you need to build each of the parts, and no matter the size of the wall piece, it's all the same. No, that's wrong. The smaller ones are 1 aluminium, where the middle ones are 2. I heard the music change. Could be the weather, could be something coming in. We'll start with the walls in here. Something to take note of is when you're building, you get a certain amount of experience points when you finish building a panel. It looks like 10 points, no matter how much health it has, and then 2 points when you repair it. So building something to 100%, you cannot repair it, and therefore you go without a little extra experience. 10 industrial engineering. So if you're trying to gather a little extra experience, then this method, where you get it to almost full and then you repair it. Each of these panels end up with their own health that will eventually need to be repaired if, say, a jaculus or a crab comes by and brushes against it gently. Bit of a shame. And another thing I've no, that doesn't seem to have fully repaired it anyway. Before it seemed like at 90% of build strength, and you repair it, you would need to repair it twice. Doesn't seem to be the case with this one, these panels. Getting close to full build strength slows down how quickly it does finish the building or creation. So you can save perhaps a little bit of time by stopping around 90-92% on these panels. It's a very small amount of time saved, if at all, though. Looks like we're using a lot of our aluminium. Lucky we have a few nodes nearby. Good reason for why I chose to reduce the creature spawns is because eventually you'll end up being completely ambushed constantly at your base, so you'll be constantly repairing each of the panels. And if you end up with a large base, oh yeah, it never ends. So, for the wall pieces I want, I'd like to have some rubber and more copper. And of course more aluminium. So while we're here, I'll drop off a few of these resources just so we're not carrying them around all over the place. Turn the snake meat into food, cooked food I suppose. That was this one. Ah yes, while jumping or flying you cannot put a weapon away or change items. If you ever hurt in the middle of a fight, you need to land and then change, and then once you have an item selected you can run around or jump. I see you there. There it is. To me it appears on average, the days have 2 storms. Enough time in the day that you end up that you still have enough time to explore around. But still enough that it's annoying to deal with the storms being darkening the days. Mining on cliffs seems to partially bug out the character as he tries to adjust and stand accordingly. Downhill it doesn't seem to be quite as buggy though. Quick sort button, which I'd like to see whether that... See, where did the aluminium go? Up the top, there it is. And we need to find a certain tree I might have mentioned. This is a rather interesting line of grass. A certain tree, known as the rubber tree, of course. Let's see if I can remember a good direction to go to find one. I believe off to the right will end up being the right direction. The longitude is increasing. Looks like we have some geysers over here, which could mean some sceliopods. There we are. You usually find 2 or so sceliopods in these craters. We have magnesium, which is actually a good idea to collect some. Get the torch on again. There he is, an adult one this time again. Ooh, lowered health. Low health gives you a bloody screen. Food can be used in the inventory by right-clicking it and using Eat, which you'll see up here. The outer ring is the health, the inner ring is the suit integrity, but the meat can also be used from the hotbar. I'm not familiar with these geysers. In fact, I'm not familiar with this corner of the island at the moment either. Usually I've spawned close to around 5 latitude and -5 longitude, and the other spawn I've had has been at about 19 latitude and -20 longitude. I've explored around a lot of the island, but I'm not familiar with here. Longitude is increasing, latitude is decreasing. Both decreasing, so this way would be towards the dunes, if I remember. Which is an infinite nothingness, really. Looks like the planet's rings are this way. Yes, I'm not quite where I thought I was. This is interesting. This must mean that it's using a similar world. Or one of the other worlds I've already generated. believe I'm in one of the sandworm craters, but I'm not 100% sure. A gold node here. Final. Oh god, these creatures. Arachnoids. Because I'm getting thirsty, I've got a drink. So that throw that on a hot slot so we can gather some sap. I'm hearing more sceliopods. I'm pretty sure I heard a crab emerge. More chlorine here, with an unusual rock formation. Wait, oh, this isn't a rock formation at all, is it? If we head back up and follow that again, actually. Past these geysers. Find that it's actually a skeleton. So perhaps I was right before. We were in what appears to be a giant worm crater with a dead giant worm. Is that flying or is that on the ground? It's one of the floating. Actually went for my gun but pulled out the chisel. And as we're hungry, we'll also recover some health. What a skeleton this is. Okay, we're off for more copper and for the rubber trees. Oh, it appears there are two skeletons here. One with its maw to the sky, and one in the crater. These ones look even larger than the worms that are still alive. Well, these tree bark trees over here should give us some sap. And it appears that's one of my other bases? That can't be right. I don't think I'm built in a place like this. In first person we can see that the jar sees that there's sap nearby. As we fill it up, it gives a numeric value of, or count for how much is in it. Because we're thirsty, we'll drink that too. It is not possible to drink from the hot bar, only fill. And amongst these tree bark trees appear to be berry trees. And bad frame rates, but because the trees. Why are you not showing? I'm not sure what these are then. They appear to be nothing. It appears to be sap. Never mind. That base we saw just a moment ago. Well, let's go check that out. As I don't believe I remember building anywhere near here. Yes, that giant skeleton did look a bit like a creepy flower. There's another one over there. I didn't know there were so many. This is interesting. An unfinished base by the looks of it. We have these tumbo. These are non-hostile normally. Strange looking creatures, especially with their face. Okay, so this was added by the developers at some point. Not possible to gather or fix up. No way of breaking it down, so that's interesting. Actually, the biodome. The one thing that's not well, can't do anything with it despite it being in what appears to be complete condition. Though I believe this is a part of the biodome. This looks like a roof laboratory, but no projector to build anything with. Up on the hill, a radar, and over there a satellite. No interaction at all. That's just a bit of a shame. There's something else on the top of the hill. More solar panels, radar dishes. I do believe I see some copper though. If that's copper, we'll grab that. Scaleopod. Can't tell where it is. Obviously it wasn't this way. Jeez. That should be it dealt with. Okay. That's video games for you. Well, let's go see what the satellite has for us. I can bet the video quality has probably dropped like a tank, thanks to this storm. Satellite. Aluminium, a battery. And that was all. One of the new resources that I've mentioned before. Azurnium. A glowing blue resource. With about 50 of the Azurnium, you can end up making a new mission assistant. But I don't find too much need for that unless yours ends up being killed or destroyed or whatever it is. I'm still curious about this other inflatable dome. Trees I had hoped for haven't been nearby. They're a fairly recognizable tree. And I just happened to land on one of the red plants. Gee, that was smart. this rate, I may as well just end up going to the cave. You're getting closer and closer to it anyway. Ah, Colossus. Another passive creature. That seemed to spit when you get close to him. Spit doesn't seem to do anything, thankfully. And there's the rubber tree. Actually, it looks a bit like fungus. That's what the stamina bar is, down the bottom. For some reason I had an odd feeling that it was connected to the oxygen bar. Okay. Try to get 2 stacks of this. Oh, it can hit me from here. Move away from the tree while we kill them. Ah, that's why there's so many nearby, and we're right by the cave. Stuck and weaving. Lithium. One of the other main resources for batteries. The cave. One of the few places you can get some interesting resources, such as this fungus. So the combat music is for the things above the surface. But it will be relevant to this corner here. Do something. One of the other more disturbing creatures. These now, oh god, these gnats. I probably should have gotten more food before coming down here. Well, before exploring, really. Here, though it says carbon, is one of the other things we need. Diamond. Normally by now, once I'm in through this cave, I don't have the combat music still playing. 34 time, and that's pretty good so far. We'll grab another lot. Oh gosh. Well, let's head out. Ah, crab's back. Try to find this dome. I'll be right back. Thought I might have heard something, but I was wrong. So we've saved up a few points, just going to throw a bunch into strength. We can now carry about 200 kilograms of stuff, and we can see the sun that's probably recently gone down. This cave entrance is a bit strange. Can be hard to get out of, but the main strange part is that it appears to be somewhat separate from the outside world. There's an invisible barrier for the enemies. Ejaculus can often be shot through this gap, but if you see, the shots are prevented from escaping. wonder if I can ignore him. Let's go and investigate this dome. Oh gosh, these little guys. These little, small, parasite creatures. They are annoying, though weak. And this dome appears to be where I originally built my first character's dome and base. Should be just over this hill. This is interesting. Oh, it's shooting. Oh, nope, 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 nope. Because I am not on the same faction, it is shooting me. That is interesting. But everything I've built here with the other characters seems to be here as well. Am I able to use the forge? That's my question. I can. All the resources I had here too. I'm just going to cook some of the meat I have up. Saw this. Bunch of other creature parts. And if I remember, over here were more resources. Obviously I collected a bunch of tree bark that I never really needed. Well. We'll head back. While trying to survive. The Grey Crater. was mostly under the impression that each of these characters had their own world. And then I would have more than likely died on the way back home if I couldn't cook up that meat there. The big crater with the third skeleton. Actually, was this actually one of the ones we saw? I don't think it was. Ah. Here's one of my old beacons. Though it shouldn't be owned by me. Perhaps it's the character name. That's why I'm seeing my other things. The character name determines the world, not the world name. That's a little bit backwards. I used Koi for the other character's name. Of course, the other test would be to head to my other character's place. Oh, these meteors are getting pretty spread out. And if I didn't look to my left, I would not have seen that Jeculus, who appears to be ignoring me completely. Well, if I go by the other character's name that I've used, Gary, I don't know. Anyway, the resources I've collected this time should mean that I would be able to create suitable buildings to get a vehicle to travel further. I should have enough rubber. I definitely have more than enough diamonds. Plenty of lithium. I could probably do a bit more. Oh well. Suddenly fog. Down here, is it not? Are you seriously still following me? It was. Just sorting some inventory. Ah, the titanium. So back to building this here. 4 cardinal directions. I don't have the steel. Okay. Keep getting items. A couple of that was not meant to be a normal wall. So when you accidentally build something you didn't mean to, you end up losing one, usually, of each resources that you used. With the minerals, they don't really matter too much whether you lose one or so. It kind of sucks if you only just got enough for what you intended to make. but generally otherwise it doesn't matter. And I need to just grab some more aluminium that I've left in the depository. And we'll just finish this off, shall we? Quite interesting, those. Last two walls. And we're done. Finishing the walls gives the habitat a glass ceiling for some reason. We have the airlock. And to expand the base through these couplers, simply selecting the hallway as far as I know. I don't believe you can place other parts other than more airlocks right next to it. We're definitely short on steel. We have plenty of glass there, but we don't have the plastic yet. To get the plastic we need the cam station. Just enough steel, and we have the glass. Cam station cannot be placed inside the habitat or any of the building pieces, as it seems to stick to the ground, terrain, whatever you wish to call. And it can't be placed too close to the forge, for whatever reason. There's a small footprint. It's capable of going closer, I'm sure of it. Could be other reasons. Ah, yes. Needs a power source. We need a solar panel. A solar panel requires some iron, some glass, and some carbon. Just grab the carbon we had before. Make this solar panel solar kit. There you are. I've had plenty of times where they've jump scared me. Of course, back to where we were. The small solar panel kit is used to make the solar panels itself. Which is interesting because it can go right next to the, well, almost right next to the forge, almost right next to the cam table. The direction does not really matter much. It's always effective and still always charges whatever's nearby. And for the sake of it, we'll make another one. The other way to build it is to right click on the kit and select to build. One of these solar panels will be necessary later on. Especially right next to the habitat. I need to go get some hydrogen. We'll need more steel as well, which means we need to use some aluminium, iron and magnesium. Slow process of crafting. Luckily you get 2 steel per each craft. I think it could be a bit more, but still reasonable to get 2. And the barrels, titanium. The barrels weigh fairly reasonable, 8 kilos each. And if we just head up over the hill, we should be able to get some fairly easily. The hydrogen, I mean. Here we are. The collision point for shooting these is around the head, or head area. The barrels are similar to the fluid tanks. They will detect that there's hydrogen or another gas nearby, and will show a value as they fill up as well. They fill up roughly 5 per tick when filling, which is reasonably quick. I was thinking of something else as well. What was I thinking? I have no idea. I guess holding barrels in third person is a bit strange as well. The hand seems to be inside the tank. Ah yes, and it's because we need some carbon. We have some carbon, but the extra we have is probably worth grabbing as well. Plastic takes 50 of the hydrogen, so half a tank per craft, and 1 carbon. And yeah, doesn't really get much per craft, or per tank, 2 per tank, so it's a few trips to make some plastic. And plastic is one of the more common things you need as well when making the next tier sort of items. The tiers aren't really the same as basic, advanced, etc. It's just the next lot of things that you craft. Filling the tanks can be seen as you fill them on the icon in the hotbar, though it seems the hotbar seems to have faded out after inaction. I think one of the latest updates has changed that. And I'm sure someone was half expecting me to say, oh wow, barrels stack to 4, but no they don't. They don't stack at all. Plastic still only stacks to 16. That's an interesting thing kept over compared to all the other items that now stack to 50. You notice as I'm crafting the plastic that barrels still keep the H for hydrogen, so I'm not sure if they only take hydrogen now. It's possible. Randomly coming in here to check on the furniture. We have enough for the fabricator, which is another crafting table item. Oh, they have put the other guns as requiring the extra skills. Here we have the circuit boards, the wire, bandages, glass container, batteries, and a landmine. A 12-slot inventory for the fabricator, just like everything else that has an inventory other than the depositories. In here we would eventually want the circuit boards. Going back outside, we should now be able to make the hallways. We need the aluminium. Just as a test, the habitat cannot be built right next to another habitat. It has a certain range before it can be built. It could be the current grid is centered over this habitat at the moment, and it can't be built, a new habitat cannot be built within that area. I think that's a little counterintuitive. I think habitats should be built together, just from the number of different furniture things that you need to put inside one. Although you probably could get all the furniture you need in one habitat. But anyway, the hallway is simply put on the sides. Because I was wanting to build all 3 of them at the same time, may as well do that. Looks like it's just going to fit on the side. Nice thing about these is the top panels are all already filled in. The annoying thing is the side panels all need to be placed manually. An interesting aspect of this is you can climb into these hallways somehow. I know I've done it. There we are. And then this room itself is technically still sealed. The next structures I would like to have were the biodome, where we don't have enough plastic, and the barracks, where we don't have enough steel or lead on us. Instead, what else can we put in here? The chemistry table. The chemistry table is similar to the chemistry lab that's outside. The storage lockers are an internal storage thing, so they are placed over by the walls. Water reclaimer, free water, essentially. Smart bins, and the bin are a biodome item. The couch is built in the barracks, the computer desk in the habitat or the barracks. Oxygenator for the habitat. Climate controller doesn't seem to be doing much, not that I noticed. Kitchen allows you to cook meat inside. And the shower, I believe, if we go we step outside again. The suit appears to be fairly reddish colour, and I believe that's from exploring outside and the dust that's collected on the outside. Though it doesn't really do much, I think it's a way of just cleaning that off. The solar panel I built outside the habitat is powering this fabricator, so we can craft things with it. Otherwise I would not be able to access its inventory at all. I need to get some gold and some lithium inside. Let me grab that. Forgetting to pressurize the airlock. Strange. I'm sure they'll change it eventually. We'll just make a few of these. Probably all we can make of them, rather. Wires were something that stacked to about 50 before, and the circuit boards to only 5. I'm curious as to how many the stack of circuit boards goes. Well, you know what I mean. Circuit boards are now 50. That saves a lot of inventory space. So, what should we make? Now we should check the skill web, see how many points we have now. Unlock the basic heavy weapons. We will... Let's see. Habitat furniture. Don't have enough science for the computer. Sustenance would be good. We don't have the science for the pheromone expertise or the toxicology. So we'll come over this way. Engineering for the basic defensive perimeters. And with only 1 point left for the engineering, we won't bother. Melee weapons, melee training. Light weapon training. And munitions before I forget. And we'll throw our point into light weapons. So now we can have a water reclaimer. If we go get more copper. Another trip outside. But we don't have any copper. We used all the copper we had. We'll just come back this way for a moment. See if we can get some from the precious resources. There's some more copper. Looks like we're getting thirsty again. So, the water reclaimer. We'll put it in this corner. Whoops, that was a mistake. Because this is going to take a while to repair. I suppose an opportunity to gain some more industrial engineering experience. It's an interesting tool for the repairing. It's like a drill. I am unsure if that's a... Oh, that's a bug. Having critical dehydration and taking a drink from the water reclaimer doesn't appear to clear the dehydration issue. What if I drink some sap? It does not remove that warning either. Interesting. It's one of the first bugs I've encountered. Next furniture item. Chemistry table. Put it over in this corner. Here are the advanced buff items, as well as some of the other items you can craft outside, like the med kit, the water in the glass container, the plastic, the rubber, the soil. Soil takes human waste. There's a utility, the excrement collector, and it takes half an hour. If you close the game and start it up again, that half an hour restarts. I'm guessing perhaps creating more than one of the excrement collector allows you to have more within that half-hour time limit. But that doesn't really make sense to me. Anyway, the various buff items... the various buff items are things like the Blitz, which gives you a buff to stamina, Afterburner gives buff to carrying capacity, which is a useful one if you're ever out exploring. A nice joke. Dino boost to speed, which I haven't really seen much difference depending on how many points you have in your speed, or agility rather. Boost to your health. I am unsure of how much of a boost to the health it is. The Grunt is one of the advanced ones that you can only make at this table. A strong boost to the carrying capacity. Lava Leaves. Something on another planet. Anvil, which also uses lava leaves, boosts health. Frenzy, boosting health and stamina, interestingly. The Spirit boosts health and speed. Wrath boosts capacity, carrying capacity and stamina. And Vampire, not giving you a chance to steal health from aliens, but rather boosts your strength and speed. I mostly have only ever used the Afterburner. Yeah, the Afterburner. And that was early game before I ever boosted my strength. Well, early-ish game. I think at the moment I'm going to leave it at that. I'll take up another stream another time. Coming outside into our little dome. Come to the bed and we'll save. For now, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.